Talked a little bit about the strengths and the weaknesses of traditional recipes, where they work and where they don't work. You've talked about sort of where they don't work. Where do you see them as actually working? Where do the strengths lie in those recipe formats that we've all become so accustomed to?
Traditional recipe
formats. Is there a place for them? You know, where do they do the best? We've sort of heard about the shortcomings, but where are their strengths?
You're asking the wrong panelist.
Okay. We know where he stands on that. One of the questions from the audience is, what will get people back in the kitchen as innovators, not just spectators on the sidelines? And there's been a lot written, you all have done some of the writing as well, about the phenomenon of watching food being prepared on television. And I heard Ruth Reichel speak a number of years ago, and one of the things that really struck me is she said, there's more food programming on television than ever before, and yet fewer people are cooking. That maybe there's something on a deep psychological, maybe the feeling level, again back to Myers-Briggs, that genetically we want to experience what it's like to see somebody cooking. That this is a comfort to us. That this really feels good, and that if you don't have grandma in the house cooking, and you're not cooking, that maybe watching it on television is is the next best thing. So how do we get people back in the kitchen and stop watching just on television? What are the keys from your perspective?
One of the keys is you don't have to do the whole meal from scratch. You know, if you're going to write a recipe, write sort of maybe a guideline. Okay, I'll be honest. Maya Kimmel simmer sauces and Rick Bayless simmer sauces, they're killer. They have my dinner ready in 15 minutes. I am not going to spend 2.5 hours making a curry on a Tuesday night. But if you do have heard someone here on a blog say, you know, I tried out the Maya Kimmel simmer sauce, I got some sent to me, it rocked. What I did with it is I, steamed some cauliflower for, 8 minutes. They're about 1 inch size, and then I seasoned them with other Indian spices, cumin, coriander, some salt, and then I cheated again, I used some Trader Joe's instant brown rice. I had this really healthy dinner, and it was together in 15 minutes. So I think, at least for the bloggers, it's like, encourage people to skip a step sometimes for the more complex things. And I think that's one way to get them in the kitchen. They'll still have dinner in 15 minutes, they'll still have a quality product, they'll still steam their cauliflowers, they'll be healthy, good, they'll pull out a knife, but they'll only have to do a couple steps to make a really wonderful dinner for their family. So I think that's one way to do it.
I think simplifying is so important. When Andrew and I travel on book tour, I'll inevitably get asked the question that I cringe about, which is, tell me your favorite recipe. Well, I married a professional chef, so I didn't have to cook. And I enjoy cooking from time to time, and when we live in Manhattan, we have a small Manhattan-sized kitchen. I eat tiny, tiny, tiny. And, it's not a joy for more than one person to be in there at a time. And as the saying goes around our home, there's only room for one ego in that kitchen. So that's his. But when I do cook, one of the things I love that I find really inspiring is the simplest of recipes. I took a cooking class with Hiroko Shimbo, thank you, who actually I've taken all of her classes that I can. She teaches Japanese cooking in New York City at Hiroko's Kitchen. She's written wonderful books on Japanese cooking. In fact, with Judith Jones, I think she's done a couple of books. But she taught me that you can take a simple steak, you can rub it around the outside with, like an 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch of miso paste. You can wrap it up with plastic wrap, throw it in the fridge overnight. When you get up, take a paper towel, wipe the miso paste off the steak, throw it on the grill. It will be the most amazing steak you've ever had in your life. The flavors are so complex. I mean, talk about umami. This recipe is amazing, and even I can do it easily when I'm short on time. So that's the kind of recipe that I can share with utter enthusiasm to anyone from an inexperienced cook to a room full of distinguished professionals like yourself. And it's something that reminds us all, because we're all busy, we're all pressed for time, and I think that challenges even us, as Andrew's admitted, quite frankly, that we can't have a meal cooked from scratch all the time. So instead of ordering ordering in, at least he'll do something home cooked with one of our favorite chefs' products. But I think that, again, those simplification when the time and available and resources demand, I think having people not be ashamed of that, I think is really important.
I don't disagree with you. There are
there's a but.
there's a huge but coming. Yes, sometimes we need quick meals, quick healthy meals. In fact, we most often do during the week, and I want people to have those. I want people to cook. But I think this country has, and the food editors and the food TV programmers and everybody have gone way overboard. It's got to be fast. It's got to be quick. It's got to use only 3 ingredients. I think that's a wrong message to send. A friend's dad looked at me and said, "Give me a great recipe that I can do in 15 minutes." I said, "Salt, grilled steak." I love grilled steak. Even a pan-seared steak, nice salt on it. Some pasta with some Parmesan Reggiano. Great meal. 15 minutes. Easy. It didn't satisfy him because he wasn't really looking for a fast meal. He wanted a good meal. I think we've got to let people know that it's okay to spend an hour in the kitchen. In fact, it might be fundamental to our humanity that we take an hour and spend it with our family cooking a meal, or that somebody in the house does. We've gotten too engrossed in the notion of speed, ease, and quickness.
Do you think that that's a matter of choice? I mean, look at our economy. I'm from Detroit. Everybody, I went to I had a high school reunion that I had to miss, unfortunately, this fall, but I'd been planning to go and had gotten in touch with a lot of people. The unemployment rates were off the charts. So 15% and up unemployment in the Detroit area because of what's going on with the automotive industry. Yeah, they have time to cook now. Yeah, they can celebrate that now. But the rest of us who are scrambling to work for a living, if you look at the productivity numbers, you'll see that the productivity numbers are higher because of all the people who have gotten laid off. We're all working longer and harder than we ever have before. So we still work for a living. I don't know if anybody's in the position of not having to work for a living, and sure, take that luxury of time and enjoy it. God bless you. But in terms of the shortcuts for the most of us in the world who have to work for a living, we're working so many hours in a day. We're working 6 or 7 days a week when we're on deadline, and you have to draw the line somewhere. What we have found to be a trick, and which is why when we talked about that last slide, why we've gone from our emphasis from the plate to the plate and the glass, it's because I think that is one of the single most underused tricks on how to turn a simple meal, like that perfect steak. My mouth was watering like that because I knew I would pair it with a great Cabernet Sauvignon and it would really pull it out. We talked a little bit a few weeks ago when we kicked off the Pillsbury Bake-Off event about how the difference between one-dimensional, two-dimensional, and three-dimensional flavors. And one-dimensional flavors, when we talk about that, we mean sort of those flavors that are neutral bases. A chicken that's very simply cooked, or a slice of tofu, or some ricotta cheese as being a relatively neutral flavor. You add a flavor pairing to that, whether it's basil or whether it's eucalyptus honey to that ricotta cheese, and it takes it to another dimension. It really explodes it in a synergistic way, so that 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, 1 + 1 = 3. Well, when you take that and then you add a synergistic beverage to the glass, in the case of the ricotta and either the prosciutto or the eucalyptus honey, in both cases it goes phenomenally with Prosecco. And if you try that combination, all it takes is one taste, and it blows your mind when you realize the synergies that can take place that way. I think that is so hugely overlooked. And when we're talking about recipes, we don't see recipes anymore as continuing in the future without someone taking responsibility for what should be served in the glass next to it. It doesn't have to be wine. I think, again, while the economy is down, although wine sales are continuing to go up, I think because people are understanding the power of a well-matched beverage. But I think non-alcoholic beverages as well. And in What to Drink with What You Eat, we also wrote about, in addition to beer and cocktails and so forth, in sake, we also wrote about coffee, tea, water, even fruit juices that you can pair with particular dishes. So there's a whole host of opportunity in that realm that I think has just begun to be tapped. But I think I do envision a point in time that's not so far into the future, because we've seen it happening already, where there will be a compatible beverage mentioned with every recipe. And that's part of what you deliver as a food professional. When we talked in the beginning about, are you defining what you do too narrowly? You know, I am a recipe creator, I am a recipe tester, I'm a recipe communicator. You write about food and wine.